Hi, my name is Andy Hawker. I love things that go fast. I'm hoping that we can have some fun together. So join me as a fellow disciple of speed. Hello and welcome, fellow disciples of speed. Today I want to tell you a little bit about one of the manufacturers of small die-cast cars, and this story will be familiar to some of you, but it'll be new to others. There were these two English school friends, and their names were Leslie Smith and Rodney Smith. They weren't related. They were both working jobs separately after World War II, and they really wanted their own company. They wanted to have their own thing. While working these jobs, they were able to begin their own company in 1947, and they named it Lesney. Now, Lesney was an amalgamation of their two first names. Leslie and Rodney became Lesney. Rodney worked at a company with a guy named John Odell. He went by Jack Odell. And Jack decided to join the company as a partner. So he was a die casting expert, and he had some of his own machines. And that was something that was very helpful. They began then making die-cast goods for the retail market. By 1948, they had 8 employees along with the 3 partners. So Jack Odell had this idea in 1950 to make a die-cast replica of the Royal State Coach. It was a horse-drawn carriage used for official state events. But because of the Vietnam War, Lesney could not produce die-cast toys as the government had restricted the use of zinc in commercial die casting. But in 1952, they could begin production of the coach, but the problem was that in January of that year, the king got ill. King George VI died, and they had to modify the design of the coach now because it was going to be used for the coronation of King George's daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. And her coronation took place on June 2nd, 1953. Now, there was a large-scale coronation coach that they made, and it was very successful. But they also made a smaller version of the coach. And this is one of them right here. This coach is owned by my friend Stan Hostetler, and it originally belonged to his father. And this is in beautiful condition. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It comes apart. There are riders only on one side, which is authentic, riding the horses. And it's just in perfect condition. The smaller scale coach sold over 1 million copies. It was widely successful. Now, the success of that coach, coupled with Jack's daughter's teacher's rule, Jack got an idea for another vehicle. His daughter attended school, and her teacher had a rule that for show and tell, you could only bring something that was small enough to fit inside of a matchbox. So Jack designed a road roller. Now, this is an early Lesney road roller, but this is not the one that is the original one. It was a little smaller than this, but Jack designed that so that it would fit inside of the matchbox, and he gave it to his daughter to take to school for show and tell. And it was very successful as well. So they designed and manufactured 4 models that year. Again, 1953. It was the road roller, which is what we would call, like a steamroller, a paver. So there was the road roller, the Muir Hill dumper, cement mixer, and a Massey Harris tractor. I don't have at the moment a cement mixer, but this is the Muir Hill dumper, and this guy's in great condition. Paint is very good. Driver is intact, and this is the Massey Harris tractor, also in very good condition, with the driver still in place. This all started the phenomenon of Matchbox in 1953. which led to then Lesney developing what they called their 1 to 75 series. It was all the vehicles that were the small scale, and they would eventually have 75 that they would put out every year. And some of them would run, consecutive years, but the number 1 road roller would be eventually replaced by the number 2 road roller, and so on. So different models would be eventually phased out and new one phased in, but always 1 to 75. And then later they came out with what they called the major packs. Now this one is a little bit bigger. You can tell that it's a little bigger than this dumper, but this was part of the major pack series. And this has 2-piece wheels, whereas these are single piece, metal, later gray plastic and black plastic. This has red plastic hub with a black tire that fits over the hub. And this is a little dumper as well. It's articulated as how it steers. After that, they came out with what they called their models of yesteryear. So these were cars that were a little bigger scale, and they were of much older vehicles. And some just beautiful, beautiful designs here as well. This one's in great condition. I absolutely love this one. And then after that, they came out with what they called the king size models. And this is an example of the king size. So you can get an idea of the early 1 to 75 versus the king size, and the major pack versus the king size, and the model of yesteryear versus the king size. And the king size got a little bigger as they went on in time as well. But they also had, early on, the 2-piece wheel design, red hub with a black tire that fit over the hub. Sometimes you will find these in garage sales, antique stores, whatever, and the black tire is missing because over time they just didn't fit very well anymore. They would fall off. And so sometimes you can't get the tires with them when you buy it. However, there are manufacturers who do aftermarket for those tires, and you can get them and put them on and basically restore the vehicle, and it's great. So Matchbox went along really pretty fat and happy. The 2 die casters that were ahead of them in the market were also British companies. There was Dinky and Corgi. They were the other 2 big ones. They were sold widely in the United States, but something happened in 1968 that changed everything, and that was Mattel and the introduction of their cars, Hot Wheels. We'll talk about them another day. But the one thing I will say is that they were fast. Everything was designed to be on a track. And that changed everything for Matchbox because Matchbox focused on detail. They wanted them to look realistic. They wanted them to be something that children saw every day and, played with something they recognized. Whereas Hot Wheels was really more about speed. And so Matchbox soon could not compete, particularly in the United States. So they had to do something significantly different. And that was the introduction of their super fast wheels. So super fast came out, and here's another dumper. And you can see that it's a bigger version of the old original, but the wheels are different. It was made to roll faster. And all of the cars came out with the super fast wheels really in order to compete. And the king size cars also came out with super fast wheels around the same time, and they became known as Super Kings. Likewise, the models of yesteryear later came out with wheels that were fast, super fast, to be able to fit in the same range. Both the king size and the models of yesteryear were eventually phased out. And really Matchbox just focused on the small 1 to 75 series cars. Today, they do what they call a 1 to 100 series. They don't really call it that, but they put out 100 models every year. One thing to note that along the way, Jack Odell left the company and decided to move on. He started his own company at some point to make his own cars, and they looked very similar to the Matchbox models of yesteryear, and even a little bit bigger. And he called them Lido, which is Odell spelled backwards. And Lido cars are fun cars as well. They've got nice, beautiful detail. They have more plastic, obviously, because they're newer makes, but another great series of cars. So I hope you've enjoyed talking about Lesney and Matchbox and some of the history there. We'll talk about some specific models more in detail another day, but this is just an introduction, and I hope you enjoyed it.